Have you ever wondered what it feels like when the person who should welcome you into their family believes you're not worthy of their child's love? I certainly never expected to find out firsthand. But life has a way of teaching us lessons through the most unexpected people. When I first met Adrian, everything felt like a fairy tale. The kind of love story you see in movies, where time slows down, the world fades away, and all that matters is the person standing in front of you. We connected instantly. He was charming, ambitious, and had the kindest heart I'd ever known. Within months, I knew he was the one I wanted to build a life with. Our relationship flourished effortlessly. We complemented each other. Where I was cautious, Adrian was adventurous. Where he was impulsive, I was thoughtful. Friends called us the perfect match. What I didn't realize was that perfection in someone else's eyes wasn't enough for Eleanor Davis, Adrian's mother. The first time I met Eleanor was at a Sunday family dinner. Adrian had spoken about her with such admiration, how she'd raised him alone after his father passed, how she'd worked 2 jobs to put him through college, how she'd sacrificed everything for his future. I prepared for days, choosing the perfect outfit, rehearsing topics we could discuss, even learning to make her favorite dessert from Adrian's aunt. Eleanor opened the door with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Her gaze swept over me, calculating and cool, before she hugged her son with genuine warmth. "So this is the girl you've been talking about," she said, her voice pleasant but distant. Something in her tone made my stomach tighten. That evening I tried everything to win her approval, complimenting her home, asking about her work, offering to help with dinner. But with each attempt, she became more withdrawn, responding with clipped answers and quickly turning her attention back to Adrian. Later that night, as we drove home, Adrian squeezed my hand. "She just needs time," he assured me. "Mom's protective. She'll warm up." I nodded, wanting desperately to believe him, but the knot in my stomach told a different story. Over the next few months, Eleanor's subtle disapproval became a constant shadow over our relationship. She would call Adrian at odd hours with emergencies that mysteriously resolved themselves once our plans were canceled. She'd reminisce about his ex-girlfriend, Caroline, during family gatherings. Such a lovely girl from such a good family. I wonder what she's doing now? Birthday gifts became weapons, thoughtful, personalized presents for Adrian, and generic, last-minute items for me. I tried everything. I brought her flowers, offered to help with her charity work, listened to her stories about Adrian's childhood. Nothing changed. Eventually, I learned to smile through her thinly veiled criticisms, to ignore the way she'd accidentally leave me out of family photos, to pretend I didn't notice when she introduced me as Adrian's friend instead of his girlfriend. Adrian noticed it all. At first, he defended his mother. "She's just old-fashioned," or "she doesn't mean anything by it." But as time passed, I could see the conflict in his eyes, the pain of being caught between the woman who raised him and the woman he loved. The breaking point came on our 2nd anniversary. Adrian had planned a special dinner, and against my better judgment, we'd invited Eleanor to join us. The evening started pleasantly enough. Eleanor was unusually warm, asking about my work as a graphic designer, seeming genuinely interested in my answers. For the first time, I felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe she was finally accepting me. Then Adrian excused himself to take a call from work. As soon as he was out of earshot, Eleanor's smile vanished. She leaned across the table, her voice soft but razor-sharp. "I've been patient, waiting for my son to come to his senses. But he seems quite taken with you. So let me be clear. You will never be good enough for him." The words hit like a physical blow. "I don't understand," I managed to say, my voice barely above a whisper. "Let me help you understand, then," Eleanor continued, her calm demeanor more frightening than anger would have been. "Adrian was raised to achieve greatness. He comes from a family of doctors and lawyers. His father was the youngest partner at his firm. Adrian has a future, a legacy to fulfill. And you? A graphic designer from a divorced family with community college education? You'll hold him back. He deserves someone who can elevate him, not someone he needs to carry. I felt tears burning behind my eyes but refused to let them fall. Adrian loves me. That should be enough for you. Love? She smiled coldly. Love fades when faced with reality, when you can't give him the life he deserves, when your family can't connect him to the right people, when your simple background embarrasses him at important functions. That's when love dies. I'm just trying to spare you both the inevitable pain. I sat frozen, unable to respond, as Adrian returned to the table. He immediately sensed something was wrong. What happened? He asked, looking between us. Before I could speak, Eleanor patted his hand. Nothing, darling. We were just having a little girl talk. That night, I couldn't sleep. Eleanor's words echoed in my mind, feeding every insecurity I'd ever had. Maybe she was right. Maybe I wasn't good enough. Maybe Adrian would eventually regret choosing me. By morning, I'd made a decision. I would step back before I ruined his future. It would break my heart, but if I truly loved him, shouldn't I want what was best for him? When I tried to talk to Adrian the next day, suggesting maybe we needed to reconsider our relationship, he looked confused, then devastated. What brought this on? He demanded. Is this because of what my mother said to you? I hesitated, not wanting to come between them, but Adrian knew me too well. Tell me what she said, he insisted. Every word. And so I did. I watched his expression change from confusion to disbelief to cold anger. When I finished, he was silent for a long moment. Then he pulled me into his arms. Listen to me, he said fiercely. You are everything I want, everything I need. My mother doesn't get to decide who's good enough for me. Only I do. He called Eleanor that same day, his voice controlled but resolute as he told her we needed to talk. I never imagined how that conversation would change everything, or the wake-up call he was about to give his mother. Adrian insisted on driving to his mother's house immediately. The entire ride there, his knuckles were white against the steering wheel. I'd never seen him so angry. Usually, he was the calm one, the one who found humor in tense situations, the one who could smooth over any conflict. But there was nothing smooth about the hard line of his jaw or the determined flash in his eyes. You don't have to do this, I said softly, watching suburban houses blur past our windows. Not for me. She's your mother. He glanced over, his expression softening slightly. That's exactly why I have to do this, Abby. Because she's my mother, and she should know better. No one talks to the woman I love that way. No one. My heart twisted with both love and fear. I loved him for defending me, but I was terrified of being the reason he confronted his mother. The woman he'd idolized his entire life. The woman who'd sacrificed everything for him. Eleanor's pristine colonial home came into view. Perfect landscaping, spotless white siding, brass knocker gleaming on the front door. A house as immaculate and intimidating as its owner. Adrian parked with a sharp jerk and was out of the car before I could prepare myself. I hurried after him, my anxiety mounting with each step. Eleanor opened the door wearing a crisp blouse and pressed slacks, looking as though she'd been expecting company all along. Her surprise at seeing us was betrayed only by the slight narrowing of her eyes. Adrian, darling, and Abigail. What an unexpected pleasure. Adrian didn't bother with pleasantries. We need to talk, Mom. Now. Eleanor's smile never faltered as she led us to her immaculate living room, all cream fabrics and polished surfaces. I perched at the edge of a sofa that probably cost more than my car, feeling like an intruder in this perfect, sterile space. "What's this about?" Eleanor asked, her voice honey-sweet as she sat across from us. Adrian leaned forward. "I know what you said to Abigail last night." The silence that followed was deafening. Eleanor's expression didn't change, but something cold flickered in her eyes. "I'm not sure what you mean, dear." "Don't." Adrian's voice was low, controlled. "Don't lie to me. You told her she wasn't good enough for me." Eleanor sighed as if dealing with a petulant child. "I simply expressed some concerns about your future together, as any loving mother would." "Loving?" Adrian laughed, but there was no humor in it. "What's loving about telling someone they're worthless? What's loving about digging into every insecurity you can find? What's loving about trying to break us up?" "I've only ever wanted what's best for you," Eleanor replied, her composure never cracking. "You're blinded by infatuation, Adrian. Someday you'll thank me for trying to protect you from making a mistake." I felt each word like a physical blow, but Adrian wasn't having it. He stood up, towering over his mother. "A mistake? Abigail is the best thing that's ever happened to me. She supports my dreams. She makes me laugh. She challenges me to be better. Better, Mom. Not just more successful or more impressive at your country club events. Actually better." Eleanor's perfect facade finally slipped, her mouth tightening. "You don't understand the real world yet, Adrian. Love doesn't pay bills or open doors. Love doesn't secure your future. And what would you know about love?" The question hung in the air, sharp and dangerous. Adrian shook his head. "All my life, I thought you sacrificed for me because you loved me. But now I see you just wanted to create the perfect son, your perfect reflection to show off to the world." Eleanor flinched. For the first time, I saw real emotion in her eyes. Pain, quickly masked by anger. "How dare you? Everything I've done has been for you." "No," Adrian said quietly. "Everything you've done has been for your vision of me. But here's my reality, Mom. I'm going to marry Abigail, if she'll have me after the way you've treated her. I'm going to build a life with her. And you have a choice to make." My breath caught. Marry me? We'd talked about our future in vague terms, but he'd never said those words before. Eleanor turned to me, her smile gone, naked dislike in her expression. "You've turned my son against me." I found my voice, surprising myself with its steadiness. "I've never wanted to come between you and Adrian. All I've ever wanted was for you to give me a chance, to see me for who I am, not what I lack." Adrian took my hand. "That's the choice, Mom. Either you accept Abigail and treat her with respect, or you won't be part of our lives anymore." The color drained from Eleanor's face. "You can't be serious." "I've never been more serious," Adrian replied. "I won't have the woman I love constantly undermined and hurt by you." Eleanor stood abruptly. "You're making a terrible mistake." "No, Mom. For once, I'm fixing one." We left with Eleanor still standing in her perfect living room, surrounded by her perfect things, looking utterly lost. In the car, Adrian was quiet, the adrenaline of confrontation ebbing away. I reached for his hand. "Did you mean it?" I asked softly. "About marrying me?" He squeezed my fingers. Every word, though I had planned something a bit more romantic than a showdown with my mother. That night, we talked for hours. About Eleanor, about us, about the future. Adrian was sad but resolute. He wouldn't allow his mother to poison our relationship, even if it meant distance between them. I felt guilty, despite his assurances that this was his choice, not my fault. The next few weeks were tense. Eleanor called Adrian daily at first, alternating between tearful apologies and cold anger. She sent him articles about incompatible marriages and relationships that wouldn't last. She even reached out to his friends, telling them how worried she was about him. Through it all, Adrian never wavered. He responded to her manipulation with calm boundaries, always leaving the door open for reconciliation if she could accept me, but never backing down from his position. Then the calls stopped. For 2 weeks, we heard nothing from Eleanor. Adrian was worried but tried not to show it. I could see the toll it was taking on him, checking his phone constantly, starting stories about his childhood only to trail off mid-sentence, losing sleep over what felt like an impossible choice. Just when I thought he might break and call her, Eleanor reached out. Not to Adrian, but to me. A text message, simple and direct. Coffee tomorrow? Just us. I stared at Eleanor's text for a full 5 minutes, my mind racing with possibilities. Was this a peace offering or another opportunity for her to tear me down without Adrian present? Either way, I knew I had to go. If there was any chance of healing this rift, I needed to take it for Adrian's sake. "You don't have to do this," Adrian said when I showed him the message. His voice was calm, but I could see the tension in his shoulders, the hope and fear warring in his eyes. "Whatever she says, it won't change anything between us." I touched his cheek gently. "I know, but I want to try. She's your mother, Adrian. If there's any chance we can find peace, don't we owe it to ourselves to take it?" The next day, I arrived at the coffee shop 20 minutes early, my nerves making it impossible to sit still at home. I chose a table in the corner, private enough for a difficult conversation, but public enough that Eleanor would have to maintain some civility. 10 minutes before our scheduled meeting, she walked in. Eleanor Davis looked different somehow. Still elegant and perfectly put together, but there was something less rigid in her posture, something less calculating in her eyes. She spotted me and walked over, setting her designer purse on the chair before sitting down. "Thank you for coming," she said. No warmth, but no obvious hostility either. "Adrian doesn't know what you want to talk about," I said, deciding honesty was the best approach. "He's worried." A flicker of something, pain, regret, crossed her face. "I imagine he is. I haven't been my best self lately." The waitress came and we ordered. A simple latte for me, a complicated specialty drink for Eleanor. The small interaction gave me a moment to steady myself. "Why did you ask me here?" I finally asked when we were alone again. Eleanor took a deep breath. "I've had a lot of time to think these past weeks. About Adrian. About the kind of mother I've been. About you." She hesitated, her perfectly manicured fingers tracing the rim of her cup. "I was wrong. About many things." I waited, not trusting myself to speak. This was not what I had expected. When David, Adrian's father, died, I made a promise. To myself, to David's memory, to Adrian, that I would give our son everything, that he would never want for anything, that his future would be perfect. Her voice cracked slightly. "I thought I was protecting him. I thought I knew what was best." "You were trying to be a good mother," I offered, surprised by my own compassion. Eleanor looked at me sharply. Number I was trying to control him. "There's a difference." She sipped her coffee, gathering herself. "The day Adrian walked out of my house, the day he chose you over me, was the worst day of my life since losing David. I was angry, hurt, convinced he'd made a terrible mistake. My chest tightened. And now I realized the mistake was mine." Eleanor set down her cup. "I've spent 3 weeks without my son. 3 weeks without his calls, his visits, his laughter. And for what? Because I couldn't accept that he's a grown man capable of making his own choices? Because I couldn't let go of my vision of what his life should be? I didn't know what to say. This vulnerability from Eleanor was so unexpected, so contrary to everything I'd experienced with her before. I called Caroline, she continued, naming Adrian's ex. The girl I always threw in your face as being so perfect for him. I tensed, bracing myself. Do you know what she told me? That Adrian never laughed with her the way he does with you. That he was always trying to be the person she thought he should be. Never comfortable in his own skin. That when they broke up, she wasn't surprised. Because she always felt like he was waiting for something. Someone. Eleanor's eyes met mine. You. Tears pricked at the corners of my eyes, but I blinked them back. I love him. More than anything. I can see that now, Eleanor said quietly. I was so focused on status, on connections, on the path I thought Adrian should take, that I missed what was right in front of me. How happy you make him. There was silence between us for a moment, less tense than before, but still heavy with unspoken words. I don't expect you to forgive me, Eleanor finally said. The things I said to you were cruel and unforgivable. But I am asking, begging, really, for a chance to try again. To be the mother Adrian deserves. To be, if not a friend to you, then at least not an enemy. I studied her face, looking for signs of manipulation or insincerity. But all I saw was a woman who was tired of fighting, who had looked into the abyss of losing her only child and found it unbearable. It won't be easy, I said cautiously. Adrian is hurt. I'm hurt. Trust takes time to rebuild. I know. For the first time, Eleanor reached across the table, her hand stopping just short of mine. An offer, not a demand. But family is worth fighting for, isn't it? Even when it's messy and imperfect? I found myself nodding, thinking of my own parents' divorce, of the family I'd always wanted but never quite had. Yes, it is. The next part of our conversation was less emotional, more practical. Small steps, Sunday dinners once a month, clear boundaries about what was and wasn't acceptable behavior. Eleanor listening more than talking, taking notes on her phone, nodding at my conditions without argument. When we finally parted ways, something had shifted between us. Not friendship, we were far from that, but perhaps the beginning of understanding. A fragile bridge being built over a deep chasm. Adrian was waiting at my apartment, pacing a path into my carpet. His face when I walked in was a study in nervous anticipation. Well? He asked, his voice tight. How bad was it? I set my bag down, trying to find the right words. It wasn't what I expected. She apologized. His eyebrows shot up. My mother? Apologized? She misses you, I said gently. She's realized that pushing me away means losing you. And that's a price she's not willing to pay anymore. Adrian sank onto the couch, running a hand through his hair. I don't know if I can trust her, Abby. The things she said to you. I know. I sat beside him, taking his hand. And I'm not saying we should forget everything overnight, but I think she's sincere. I think she wants to try. And you're okay with that? After everything? His eyes searched mine, full of love and concern. I thought about it, about the pain Eleanor had caused, about the insecurities that still lingered. But I also thought about the broken woman in the coffee shop, about second chances, about the family we might build together. All of us. I'm willing to try, I said finally. For you. For us. Adrian pulled me into his arms, his heartbeat strong against my cheek. You're amazing, you know that? Most people would have slammed the door in her face. Maybe, I murmured. But I'm not most people. And neither is your mother. She's flawed and frustrating and sometimes cruel. But she loves you, Adrian. In her own way, She loves you very much." The weeks that followed were an awkward dance of cautious olive branches and careful conversations. Eleanor invited us to dinner at her home, and I spent hours choosing an outfit. Not to impress her this time, but to armor myself with confidence. Adrian was tense the entire drive over, rehearsing what he'd say if she stepped out of line, assuring me repeatedly that we could leave at any moment. But Eleanor surprised us both. She'd prepared my favorite pasta dish, after texting Adrian to ask what I enjoyed, set the table with simple wildflowers instead of her usual formal arrangements, and greeted me with a genuine, if hesitant, smile. The evening wasn't perfect. There were moments of strained silence and a few comments that made Adrian's jaw tighten. But it was a beginning. "She's trying," I said on the drive home, watching Adrian's hands slowly relax on the steering wheel. "I still don't trust it," he admitted. "A lifetime of being a certain way doesn't change overnight." "No," I agreed. "But it can change, if she wants it badly enough." And it seemed Eleanor did want it badly enough. Her transformation wasn't immediate or complete. There were still awkward moments and occasional barbed comments thinly disguised as concern. But there were also real efforts. She asked about my work with genuine interest, remembered details about my family, even defended me to one of her friends who made a dismissive comment about my career choice. 3 months after our coffee shop meeting, Adrian proposed. Not in some elaborate public spectacle, but quietly, intimately, on an ordinary Tuesday evening as we washed dishes side by side in my tiny kitchen. He dried his hands, pulled a small box from his pocket, and dropped to one knee on my faded linoleum floor. "I've known since our 3rd date," he said simply. "You're it for me, Abby. The one I want to build a life with. The one I want to grow old with. Will you marry me?" The ring was perfect, not ostentatiously large or flashy, but a vintage emerald surrounded by tiny diamonds that caught the light from my cheap overhead fixture and transformed it into something magical. Through tears, I said yes, and as he slipped it onto my finger, I felt a sense of rightness settle over me. This was where I belonged, with him. Telling Eleanor was the part I dreaded. Despite the progress we'd made, I feared the news of our engagement would trigger her old prejudices, that she'd see it as Adrian making a permanent mistake rather than a joyful commitment. We decided to tell her together, over lunch at her house the following Sunday. I twisted my ring nervously as Adrian drove, half expecting the worst. Eleanor opened the door before we could knock, her smile fading as she registered our serious expressions. "What's wrong?" she asked immediately, maternal concern overriding everything else. "Nothing's wrong, Mom," Adrian assured her. "Actually, we have news. Good news." We sat in her living room, the same room where months ago Adrian had delivered his ultimatum. It felt different now, less intimidating, more lived in. Eleanor had replaced some of her formal furniture with cozier pieces, added colorful throw pillows, hung new art that felt more personal than impressive. "We're engaged," Adrian said, his voice a mixture of joy and defiance, still ready to defend our decision if necessary. Eleanor went still, her eyes moving from Adrian's face to mine, then down to the ring now visible on my left hand. The seconds stretched, unbearable, as we waited for her reaction. "When?" she finally asked, her voice carefully neutral. "Last night," I answered, instinctively covering the ring with my other hand. Eleanor stood abruptly, and I braced myself for her disapproval. Instead, she walked to a cabinet in the corner, opened it, and pulled out a bottle of champagne. "I've been saving this for a special occasion," she said, her voice slightly unsteady. "I think this qualifies, don't you?" As she busied herself with glasses and the cork, I exchanged a bewildered glance with Adrian. This was not the reaction either of us had expected. Eleanor returned with 3 glasses, handing them out before raising hers in a toast. "To Adrian and Abigail," she said. May your life together be filled with love, patience, and forgiveness. Her eyes met mine on the last word, a world of meaning passing between us. Later, as Adrian helped his mother clean up the lunch dishes, I wandered into her study, a room I'd never entered before. Photos lined the walls and shelves, a visual history of Adrian's life. School pictures, sports trophies, graduation photos. And there, in a new silver frame on her desk, was a photo of the three of us from a dinner last month. We were all laughing at something, caught in a genuine moment of shared joy. "It's my favorite picture," Eleanor said from the doorway, making me jump. I've never seen Adrian look so happy. I touched the frame gently. "Thank you for today, for being supportive. I know this isn't what you imagined for him." Eleanor moved to stand beside me, her eyes on the photo. "No, it's not what I imagined," she admitted. "It's better." She turned to face me fully. "I was wrong about you, Abigail. Wrong in ways I'm still discovering. The daughter-in-law I imagined for Adrian would have been like me, concerned with appearances, with status, with the right connections. She would have made him miserable." "And I don't?" I asked, half joking but needing to hear her answer. "You make him better," Eleanor said simply. "You challenge him. You support him. You love him for who he is, not who you want him to be." She paused, a rueful smile touching her lips. Something I'm still learning to do. The wedding planning brought new challenges. Eleanor's instinct was still to push for the grandest venue, the most exclusive caterer, the designer dress. But now, when I pushed back, preferring something more modest or meaningful, she listened. We compromised. A beautiful but not ostentatious location. Elegant but not extravagant food. A dress that made me feel like myself rather than a society bride. 6 months later, as I prepared to walk down the aisle, Eleanor knocked on the door of the bridal suite where my mother and bridesmaids were helping me with final preparations. "May I have a moment alone with Abigail?" she asked, unusually tentative. When everyone had filed out, Eleanor approached me, holding a small velvet box. "I brought you something. For today." She opened it to reveal a pair of sapphire earrings, glittering against the dark velvet. They were my grandmother's. She gave them to me on my wedding day, and now I'd like you to have them. I stared at the earrings, then at Eleanor. "But don't you want to save these for your daughter?" Eleanor's eyes filled with tears, the first I'd ever seen from her. "I am," she said softly, "if you'll have me." As I walked down the aisle toward Adrian, his face lighting up at the sight of me, I caught Eleanor's eye in the front row. She was dabbing at tears, but smiling through them. A real smile that reached her eyes and softened her entire face. The woman who once thought I wasn't good enough for her son was now proud to welcome me into her family. Adrian squeezed my hands as I reached him, leaning in to whisper, "You look beautiful. Are those your mother's earrings?" "No," I whispered back. "They're your mother's. A gift." I glanced at Eleanor again. "I think she finally sees me, Adrian. Really sees me." He followed my gaze, his expression softening. The wake-up call worked, it seems. It did, I agreed. For all of us. If you've ever dealt with a disapproving in-law who thought you weren't good enough, you know exactly how painful that rejection can feel. Abigail's story shows us that sometimes, standing your ground and setting clear boundaries is the only way to create real change in toxic family dynamics. Have you ever had to confront a family member who couldn't accept your relationship? Or maybe you've been caught between someone you love and a disapproving parent. Share your experiences in the comments below. Remember, you deserve to be with someone who chooses you every single day, who sees your worth even when others don't. Sometimes the people who should love us unconditionally need the biggest wake-up calls. If this story resonated with you, hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you never miss another real-life drama. And if you know someone dealing with a difficult in-law situation right now, share this video with them as a reminder that they're not alone. Some people will never change unless they're forced to face the consequences of their actions. The real question is, are you brave enough to draw that line?